What is up, YouTube? This is Hypergon, your Chef the Cat, back again for another video. And this week, we're going to be talking about something that's become a bit of a trend lately for Konami with their booster packs. That's right, we're going to be looking at cards that have been turned into their very own decks. Things like the new Buster Bladers that will be coming out soon, the Blackluster Soldiers, and of course, the Red Eyes Black Dragon cards. We're going to be looking not at those per se, but rather ones that could be. I'm sure this is a trend that Konami is going to be continuing for a little while, so why not see what it could potentially be? Now, before we do get started on this list, I do need to clear up a few rules about this. Inherently, I can't use an archetype that's already been turned into one or is going to be turned into one. For that reason, Dark Magician and Blue Eyes are exempt out of this list. Simply because we're already getting some Blue Eyes support, plus with the new movie coming out, I'm sure that they'll both be getting plenty more support, so I'm not counting any of those. I am also going to be excluding any archetypes that were used as support for one of the newer archetypes being released. For example, Summon Skull being used as support for Red Eyes, or Gaia and Karibo being for Blackluster Soldier. I'm not going to be touching any of those guys. They've already gotten new stuff, however, it's just as support. But it counts. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The way I'm planning on doing this isn't really list format so much as it is more just a discussion video. So the first things that we're going to be looking at are monsters found in Yugi's deck that could be doing it, since it seems to be the trend of using the three main characters of the original series being Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba. So I figured we'll just go ahead and start with the King of Games. He has the richest pool of things, so we'll go ahead and start with him. First things I can see coming out of him are the Magnet Warriors. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, and of course Valkyrion. That's really all they have right now. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot for them to make them a viable deck. I'm not entirely sure what they could do with it. Probably some sort of a contact fusion-based thing. I could very easily see them becoming a fusion-based deck. And I think that'd be kind of interesting, actually, because that's kind of how they worked in the original. I realized it was more of a tribute, these three, to special summon Valkyrion, but nowadays that's a little bit of a slow and potentially breaking tactic, so it'd probably be better to just turn them into a contact fusion deck. And you could potentially have things like a VWXYZ deck, which I realize isn't the greatest deck out there, but if remade with today's kind of stuff, it could potentially work. I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of potential in the Magnet Warriors, and it'd be kind of cool to see them have their own deck. Next up, we have the Poker Knights, the three monsters that you use that represented the face cards in a deck of standard playing cards. Jack's Knight, King's Knight, and Queen's Knight. They never really had too much. They did get a fusion monster in the form of Arcana Knight Joker, which is a good card, don't get me wrong, I love him. I've always wanted to try and make a deck work with that card, but it's just slow, inconsistent, and not good. So these guys could definitely use something else. I don't really know what you could do with the Poker Knights, but I feel like Konami could definitely do something pretty cool with it. Yeah, it just depends. Next up we have one of Yugi's sort of iconic monsters, not one of the big ones, but iconic enough, the Celtic Guardian. He was iconic enough to be able to get a redo as an effect monster, becoming the obnoxious Celtic Guardian, which gave him the ability to be immune to battle by destruction from monsters bigger than 1900, so that made him pretty difficult to beat. And I could easily see them kind of working a archetype around that, just having a bunch of Celtic Guardian monsters, or just Celtics, I guess, who could be immune to battle by monsters just a bit stronger than they are, so that you kind of have to get within their range, and that'd be a pretty decent deck idea. It'd be kind of tough to get past. Not a lot of decks really can get within that small, because it's only like a 500 attack point window. It's not a lot. I'm not saying it's impossible. Obnoxious Celtic Guardian can very easily be killed. None of them are immune to card effects or anything like that. It's just battle. So I could see it being kind of an interesting little deck idea. It could potentially work. I'm not quite sure what angle they'd go with extra deck, or even if there is any extra deck, but all of these have had some form of extra deck so far, so I can't see them not... Oh, no, Blackluster Soldier didn't. Who knows? Um, Next one I can see is the level monsters. Now, I know what you guys are saying. Hypergon, hold on. Level monsters are a thing. We've gotten them, even beyond what Yugi had. Yes, I'm talking a reworking of them. Just have them like how they were in when Yugi used them. Just have it so that each turn they gain a level and some attack. That's it. Well, obviously not just that. You'd have to make it a whole bit better or it wouldn't really survive. But something more along that dynamic, not like how we have levels. I have no issue with how we have levels now. Don't get me wrong on that. It's just I could see them trying to potentially do something like that as kind of a throwback. Is it the most likely idea? No, it's not. This is a bit of a stretch, honestly, but I'm just kind of tossing out what I think they could potentially do. And to round off Yugi's monsters, we have the gadget monsters. Um, Again, something that you used in the final duel against Atem, and the only real cards that we have for them are the three gadgets, red gadget, green gadget, yellow gadget, and their trap monster, Stronghold the Moving Fortress. Now, you could argue that we have the Gadgetron monsters from within the Ancient Gear archetype, but that's a bit of a stretch, since that's technically not even part of the gadgets. And if you guys have ever tried to make a Gadget Ancient Gear deck, you realize that it doesn't work. So we would need to do something else with them. What? I don't know. I'm not even really sure if we can. To be honest, levels and gadgets are the two I don't think are likely to happen. If I had to say any of these things happening, I could easily see Celtic Guardian being the most likely, followed by Magnet Warrior, and then Poker Knights, and then maybe level gadgets, but I'm kind of skeptical on them. That's all I can think of for Yugi's deck. However, we have two more to go, and next up we have the Godfather of games, Joey Wheeler. Now, despite what you guys might be thinking, finding cards within Joey's deck to turn into an entire archetype was actually surprisingly easy. Unlike certain other characters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Joey actually had a pretty diverse deck with a lot of cool options that could easily be turned into their own decks. So, first off, I think we'll go with his second most iconic monster. Since Red Eyes has already been done, we have to go with, yes, the Flame Swordsman. Now, they've kind of already given us a little bit of that with Blue Flame Swordsman, but honestly, he's not that great. He can't really do too much since he only works with Fire Warrior type monsters. So, I say we give him some Fire Warriors to work with. Yes, an entire Flame Swordsman archetype would be pretty badass. What they do, I have no earthly idea. They could probably just be like a destruction heavy deck, as most fire-based decks tend to be. But it's really hard to say what they could actually do with this since it's based off of a non-effect fusion monster. But who knows? I mean, maybe it'll just be a fusion deck that has some cool potential. I really can't say. I don't know. But I feel like they could do a lot with Flame Swordsman, given its iconic nature from the show and just the potential it has as being a base, effectless monster. I mean, hell, look what they did with Black Skull Dragon. They made a new fusion one of the most powerful, deadly things in this game. But I can't really ramble too much on a deck that has no real molding to it. So let's move on to the next monster, Gearfried the Iron Knight. Now, again, this is something that has a little bit of support to it. It has Gearfried, Release Restraint, and Gearfried the Swordsmaster, and that's it. So what I could see them doing with this would be something based on equip spells. Now, admittedly, equip spell based decks have always been a bit of a gamble. Sometimes they work, and sometimes actually they just don't work. Unfortunately, one of the best examples of this is Violons, which are just inherently not a good deck at all. Um, and I can't really think of any other decks that base themselves on equip spells that have been able to perform at any kind of a level. They just don't work, unfortunately. But this could be the chance to show exactly what an equip spell deck is made of. Some of the most broken cards in the game, like Snatch Steal, are equip spells, so it's not like they're bad cards, it's just we haven't found a way to unlock their true potential yet. So I think Gearfried could potentially be the one to do it. Now, I realize that Gearfried, the Iron Knight, is immune to... You can't equip him with equip spells, I realize that. However, since Gearfried the Swordsmaster can be, and actually gains a boost from that, I feel like that could potentially be the best way to do it. It's just to go off something like that. Maybe have some of them be searchers for equip spells. Have some equip spells say that it can equip onto Gearfried the Iron Knight despite its effect. Just things like that. I think there's a lot of really cool potential for what they could do with this. Um, and it may be time for the Quizbills to finally gain their day in the sun. But moving on, we now move on to an interesting little duo of cards, actually. Baby Dragon and Time Wizard. These two were always put together in the series. Now, sometimes Time Wizard had his time alone, but he was usually paired up with the Baby Dragon in order to turn it into the Thousand Dragon after a successful time roulette. Now, I realize that's not how it actually works, but at the same time, I feel like there could be an interesting sort of a dynamic with the Time Wizard Baby Dragon thing. We could just argue, well, why not just a Time Wizard deck? Well, because they've shown that they're willing to combine archetypes. I mean, just look at what they did with Red Eyes and Blackluster Soldier. They just crashed a whole bunch of different archetypes together and made a pretty series of pretty cool decks. So I feel like Baby Dragon Time Wizard could actually be a pretty interesting idea. I'm not entirely sure how it would work. Probably something based on coin flips or just something of that nature. Probably weakening or destroying your opponent's monsters. I really can't say what they could do just because, again, there was kind of a wonky gimmick in the show to begin with, so I can't really say how it would work in real life. But, again, it's something that Konami could easily milk the potential out of if they're willing to put the effort into it. Last but not least for Joey Wheeler, we have the Swordsman of Landstar. Now, this one I feel like they have no real excuse to not do. So, in the show, during the final season, Joey showed that he actually had several different Landstar cards. Like, just, he had like an armada of these guys, and we had never seen before. And now all of a sudden, boom, Landstar everywhere. So, why can't we have Landstar everywhere here? The only two Landstar cards that we have are just base Swordsman Landstar and that weird tuner monster that doesn't really do anything. So, we can expand upon the Landstar monsters quite easily, and since one of the Landstars happens to be a tuner monster, I guess it could be a pretty cool synchro deck. It'd be a little weird, yes, but at the same time, Kaiba never did a synchro summon in the series, and yet we have synchro Blue Eyes monsters. And Joey never did an Exceed summon, and yet we have Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, so anything's possible at this point. Again, I don't know what they would actually do, since Swordsman of Landstar is, again, just a tuner and a vanilla, but the potential is there. Again, it just depends on how much effort Konami's willing to put into it, and what they could think of that could potentially be really cool for some low-level monsters. That's it for Joey's decks. I couldn't really think of too much. Now we move on to the final of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trio, Kaiba. Now, very dissimilarly to Joey, Kaiba was hard to think of something else for, and that is for one reason and one reason only. The man is obsessed with his blue eyes. That's pretty much all he played throughout the series. He didn't see a whole lot of other things, so I had to really, just push it for him. I couldn't do the VXYZs either, since they've already gotten stuff. They are a deck, bad as they are, so we can't really expand upon that. So I was able to find three that I think could potentially work for Kaiba, and they are as follows. The first being one of his quote-unquote more iconic monsters is the Battle Ox. Now, I'm more going off of the fact that this is, again, one of many monsters from the original series that got an Effect Monster reprint, this one being Enraged Battle Ox. I don't remember what he does off the top of my head, and I don't really feel like looking it up, but my point is, if he was worth reprinting as an Effect Monster, then he could be worth reprinting as an entire deck. Again, they've already done that with Gaia, so there's no real reason why they can't do it with other monsters like Celtic Guardian or Swordsman Landstar, or in this case, Battle Ox. Battle Ox is kind of a cool monster, and it's not like there's not enough Beast Warrior support out there to justify it. With things like Tenki and Tensu, you can easily justify making a Battle Ox deck. It'd be pretty cool, actually, to kind of see something based more on, like, the ancient Roman creatures. You can have the Battle Ox, the Mystic Horseman, which is based on a Minotaur and a Centaur, respectively. Maybe add in a few Gorgons. I don't know. Just a bunch of cool things from that era I think would be pretty neat. Don't know how they'd work together, what they would do, but I could see them working out. Maybe it'd be like a fusion deck where you just make a bunch of really powerful Chimera-like monsters, like when you had the Rapid Horseman, which is a combination of a Minotaur and a Centaur. A pretty cool idea, and I feel like if they expanded upon that, you could have a pretty badass deck, honestly, and I would totally play that one, personally. Next up, I actually have another duo idea, and one I feel is the most possible for Kaiba to get. Most likely, probably not. But the one that I feel could work out the best. And that is the Clown Virus cards that he runs. Now, admittedly, he doesn't run Sagi the Dark Clown more than a couple of times in the series. However, he is the most iconic monster he has ever used Crush Card Virus with. And we do have a plethora of virus-based cards, but let's be serious, they suck. For the most part, things like Deck Devastation and Eradicator Epidemic Virus are not as good as their Crush Card counterpart. Even with its reprint, I still feel that way because they require too many big monsters. So, if we tone down the effects a little bit, don't make them over the top good, just kind of like what they did with Crush Card, make it applicable to monsters about as weak as Sagi, and we could potentially have something here. Just have like the dark clowns and the viruses. I think that could be a really cool idea, personally. There's a lot of potential to it. It'd be a nice little trap deck. We don't have too many of those that I can think of. So I feel like it could be a pretty neat idea if they just look into it. And last but not least, we have Lajin, the Genie of the Lamp. Now, again, I realize not a whole lot on this. I was kind of pulling teeth on this one. But I feel like Lajin does have enough of an impact. I mean, we have Lajin and we have Mystic Lamp, both of which do work in tandem with each other, so I'm sure there's something in there. I personally am not sure what they could do with it. Maybe something where you have, like, a series of Genie cards with, I don't know, a series of Lamp cards, and the Lamp cards support the Genie monsters. I don't really know how you would make this work, but I can see something there, so I don't know. I'm leaving this one up to Konami. I can't really think of anything too good for the Lajin monster. Um, but those are all the cards I can see becoming archetypes in the future. Now, if I missed any cool cards from each of their decks you guys could see becoming one, please let me know down in the comments below. This is a really cool discussion topic, and I really want to see what other people think could potentially be turned into an archetype. It's a cool trend that I really want Konami to continue, so please, let me know down in the comments below what cards you guys think could also become their own archetype. Like my page on Facebook so you can let me know your opinions there as well. Like this video, and of course subscribe to my channel for further content. Until next time,